Bedtime should have been a happy moment for a tired child. For me, it was nothing short of a nightmare. Some kids complain about going to bed without being able to watch TV or play games. But for me, the night was a complete nightmare. In the back of my mind, it still is. As a physics major, I can't explain exactly what happened to me, but I can tell you that I felt the fear. It was the greatest fear I've ever felt in my life. Nothing can equal it. I'll tell you as much as I can now. I don't remember exactly when it started, but I think my anxiety about falling asleep started when I got my own room. I was 8 years old at the time, and up until then, I was sharing a room with my older brother. He was 5 years older than me, so he asked for his own room, and I got the room at the back of the house. It was a small, cramped room. There was just enough room for a bed and a few small drawers, and that was it. I wasn't complaining because I knew that even at that age we didn't have a big house. My parents loved me, and I had a good childhood. My brother had been given a new bed, and I was sleeping in the bunk bed we used to share. And although I was a little afraid of sleeping on my own, the idea of sleeping in the top bunk excited me. I sat up in bed and looked down at my toes, scattered on the green carpet below. As I looked down at my toes, my eyes drifted to the bunk below. It was as if something was trying to escape my eyes. When I realized that there was nothing on the bunk below, I pulled my duvet over me and fell asleep with the reassurance of the TV that my father was watching from downstairs. When you wake up from a deep sleep to something moving, it takes you a few seconds to realize what it is, and when the fog of sleep lifts, everything becomes clear. Something was moving. There was no doubt about it. At first, I didn't know what it was. Everything was dark, almost pitch black. Two thoughts immediately formed in my mind. The first was that my parents were in bed because there was no sound or light. The second thought turned into a sound, the sound that woke me up. When the last of the sleeping gnats in my mind had disappeared, the sound was recognizable. The bed beneath me creaked, as if someone was searching for a comfortable position. I wondered if the sound was something I had imagined, or if my cat was trying to sleep on the bed below me. I looked at my door and it was closed. Maybe my cat had come in when my mom opened the door to check on me. Yes, it must have been. I turned my face to the wall and tried to go to sleep. As soon as I turned over, the noise downstairs stopped. I think I had disturbed my cat, but I quickly realized that the visitor downstairs was something more insidious than my cat. Suddenly, the thing downstairs started to toss and turn like mad, as if someone was throwing a tantrum. Fear gripped me. My eyes widened with fear and started to get wet. I cried. I called my mom, like any little kid would. There was movement at the other end of the house after I yelled. The thing downstairs went crazy and shook the bed like an earthquake. Instead of going downstairs, I stayed in bed. It seemed like an eternity waiting for them. The door finally opened, and the bed downstairs was completely empty. My mother was trying to calm me down while I was crying. I couldn't tell my mother what I was afraid of because of fear. I had a feeling that if I mentioned her, she would come back. My mom slept in the bed downstairs and said she would stay there until morning. But I hardly slept at all that night. The next morning I wanted to go everywhere but that room. It was a Saturday morning. I was playing in the garden with my friends. There were lots of bushes and tall trees in the garden, so we felt like we were having an adventure on an exotic island. As I was playing with my friends, my eyes drifted to the window of my room. It was as if he was watching me in the morning. And when I was alone at night, he would get angry and give me nightmares. It may sound strange, but when they let me back into the room, I didn't object. I had no proof anyway. I climbed into my bunk upstairs and went to bed. During the night, as I lay motionless with fear, suddenly my heartbeat quickened. There were crunching sounds coming from downstairs again. And this time a thought started running through my mind. A ghost. Soon the crunching downstairs gave way to breathing. I could imagine his chest rising and falling. The house was quiet again. The breathing continued. I wanted him to leave. I wanted him to leave me alone. I lay there in silence. What did he want? Then something happened that really scared me. He moved. It was different from the way he had moved before, like an animal, undoubtedly. I felt him sit up in bed. There were only a few boards between us. His breathing became faster. I was lying there, my eyes filled with tears. My throat began to burn. This fear was indescribable. I didn't think such fear existed. But I was wrong. I wondered what it was like. I was trying hard not to let him know I was awake. He began to touch the board that separated the two beds. Then with great force, he hit the wood. I started to cry. My mom came again and hugged me. She asked me what happened. I said the same thing. Nightmare. Every night I'd wake up to the creaking of the bed. The bed would shake like crazy. It would stop when my mom came home, and every night my mom would sleep downstairs, not knowing what was going on. Most nights I called in sick and stayed with my parents. I didn't want to be alone with this thing at night for some reason. It never came out when my mother was with me. The same could be said for my father, but it was very difficult to wake him from his sleep. After a few months, I got used to my night visitor. Don't think of it as a friendship. I just accepted him. The days would get harder. My grandfather was sick. He was dying. My mother was going to live with him. That day I ran home and put all my things on the bed downstairs. I didn't want him to come there. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know what to do. My only plan was to get the cross from the jewelry box, even though my family wasn't very religious. I believed in God and I knew He would protect me. I held the cross under my covers and hoped I wouldn't wake up until morning. Unfortunately, this night was the scariest. I woke slowly. The room was dark. There was no sound, no breathing, no creaking, nothing. The room seemed empty, lifeless, but not empty. The night visitor was not in the lower bed. He was in my bed. I opened my mouth to scream, but I couldn't say anything. I stood still. If I couldn't scream, he mustn't know I was awake. I couldn't see him, but I could feel him. He was at the end of my quilt. I'll never forget the weight I felt. If it was summer, there would be some light, but in winter there was no light at all. So I slept in pitch darkness. Sometimes fear takes you prisoner, pure fear. I had to get out of bed. At that moment I remembered the crucifix in my hand, but it was gone. Either it had fallen down or I don't even want to think about it. It had been taken away. Without the cross, all hope was lost, even at that age. I knew about death and I was afraid. If I stayed in bed, I'd die. I had to run. But what if he was faster than me? Could I get down without disturbing him? When I tried to sit up and realized he wasn't moving, Strange thoughts came to me. What if he was asleep? Maybe he was playing with me. Maybe he was waiting for me to wake up. Like an animal catching its prey, I tried to breathe as slowly as I could. With all my courage, I slowly started to lift the duvet off me. Just then my hand hit him. I started to tremble all over. He didn't do anything. He was dead. I wanted to touch his face. I was so curious about him until today. Oh, God, he moved. He moved and grabbed me. Tears welled up in my eyes. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. When I looked at the wall, he wasn't on top of me. He was on the wall like a spider. Suddenly, he squeezed me tighter. It was as if he realized I was trying to escape from him. He started pulling me against the wall. I started fighting for my life. I was trying to get away, but he was too strong for me. I started crying. I started screaming, but no one came. I realized why he was trying to take me right away. It was dawn. He pulled me quickly to his chest. I felt his breath. It was as cold as ice. As the sun rose, light flooded the room. He put his claws around my neck and took my life. I woke up to find my father making me breakfast. I had survived the most horrible night of my life. Weeks passed without any incidents. We turned the bed back to normal and moved it to the opposite side, replacing the old bunk bed with furniture. One night I woke up to strange noises. The furniture where the bunk bed used to be was shaking like crazy, and there was a strange humming coming from the wall. To this day, I still can't sleep with my bed against the wall. Maybe you can call it imagination, but I can only tell you this. The next year they gave me a new room, and my parents made it their bedroom. They lasted 10 days. On the 11th day, we moved out.